The Velvet Revolution was a nonviolent event that took place in Czechoslovakia in 1989. It was a set of protests that occurred in retaliation to a law enforcement attack on college students during a protest. According to James Crampfel, the revolution started on November 17, 1989, which was only a week after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Velvet Revolution, which is also known as the Gentle Revolution, was what led to the fall of communism in Czechoslovakia. A little bit of background on Czechoslovakia pre-Velvet Revolution. In Rick Vaughn's book, The Czech Republic, A Nation of Velvet, it talks about how during this time of the revolution and beforehand, Czechoslovakia ranked as one of the world's 10 most industrialized countries. Nearly one-half of the industrial workers were responsible for over 70% of its production. It goes on to say that this was complemented by Czechoslovakia's extensive land and forest. At this time, agriculture was an important economic sector. Even though Czechoslovakia had the land, they still suffered economic issues. That, combined with the political issues, played a huge part in the events that happened in 1989. Many of the economic and political problems they faced were due to the fact that the Communist Party leaders were young and were not too focused on maintaining power, which may have contributed to the ease of bringing down communism. Robin Shepard states in their book that before the revolution, Czechoslovakia was classified as a model totalitarian state, developed by Lenin and then completed by Stalin in the 1930s. Its main features were grouped into 6 categories, which included a single monopoly party with mass support, a socialist economy, a personality cult of the party leader stressing his perfect embodiment of ideals, a ruling ideology giving answers to all social, political, moral, and sometimes even scientific questions, a totally integrated and state-controlled media, and lastly, an invasive security police spreading mass terror. When it comes to the Velvet Revolution and the students that were involved in it, according to the Revolution Without a Human Face article, the students vowed to continue their strike until several demands had been fulfilled. These demands were 1. A thorough investigation of the massacre and punishment of its perpetrators. 2. Free and honest reporting in the media. 3. Release of all political prisoners. 4. Freedom of assembly. And 5. A consequential dialogue with all segments of society without exception. In the article titled, What is the Velvet Revolution? After a week of protesting, on November 27, 1989, the number of protesters were up to 500,000, and over 75% of Czechoslovakia went on a 2-hour strike, which was the final step in the fall of communism. Communism was formally abolished on November 29, 1989. The new government wasn't formally established until December 10, 1989, according to the article Communist and Post-Communist Studies. At that time, democracy was classified as the new government. The first non-communist president of Czechoslovakia was elected on December 29, 1989. It was the playwright and human rights activist Václav Havel. He is seen pictured here speaking to many of the people of Czechoslovakia. Him, along with many other cultural figures, signed petitions and took part in the protest as part of the Velvet Revolution. Wheaton states that even though the revolution was heavily populated with supporters, it was not considered to be universally nor wholeheartedly supported. According to Sharon Walchik, the Czechoslovakia may have lagged behind other European countries in challenging communism, but the revolution jump-started the fight against it, and it ended as quickly as it began. Shepard also states that the significance of the revolution was that it was led against communism, but it was not necessarily in favor of anything at the time. Shepard goes on to state that not long after the Velvet Revolution ended, Czechoslovakia split into two separate states. As you can see pictured here, these states were known as the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic. When this split occurred, the two states had very different economic outcomes. The Czech Republic took the capital and all of the resources that came with it, while the Slovak Republic was left to fend for themselves. According to Randawa, the two new states officially became public on January 1st, 1993. With the new government came new rules and standards for wages of workers. Instead of wages being based on some made-up rule, it was now based on supply and demand. With this came a rise in the prices of goods, but only a slight increase in wages, if any at all. There were also a huge loss in jobs because a lot of the factories were run by the communist government. So, when the communist government went away, so did the jobs. This caused the economy to suffer greatly. It was also quite hard for many people to adjust to the mindset of non-communism, since that was all they had known for the last 41 years. Wheaton states that during the Velvet Revolution there was only one death, but this was only fabricated by the police to discredit the, quote, peaceful movement. The Velvet Revolution was much like the other nonviolent movements we have studied throughout the semester. For example, it and the Freedom Rides, along with the writings of Martin Luther King, are great expressions of a person's freedom to go against the system and fight for their right for a better society. In my opinion, I feel that the Velvet Revolution was a great example of how to handle a violent situation in a non-violent way. What I mean by that is that the Velvet Revolution showed that a society who was unhappy with their government were able to come together in a non-violent way and not only take down the current the current government, but was able to create and establish a new one that worked for them. And as you can see here, these were my references that I used to create this video. The websites in the middle are what I used to gather my pictures. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching.